Today it's a full recording session using this, the iPhone XR with GarageBand built in. Now, in addition to the phone, I do have this stereo microphone. This is the Zoom IQ6. Fabulous mic, really does raise the sort of audio game of the phone and GarageBand. I've also got this little extender cable which allows me to plug the mic in remotely and connect up to the phone. So how's it going to work then? Well, timestamps below will take you to any bits that you want to see, but really the purposes of this demonstration is so that you can see how a song is made from start to finish, all the conception, all the decisions that are made along the way, all the problems one might encounter or ways of getting round things. I've got words and chords here, which is just something I've written for the purposes of this demonstration. So here we go. So here I am, going to start with my session. I've got my phone open here. I'm just going to tap create or the plus symbol on GarageBand, and then it's going to give me a range of the usual options. Now, just before we start, I'm just going to sing two lines with the guitar so you can kind of hear where I'm getting at. So, where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up and fight? That kind of thing. So tempo-wise, that's the first thing to get. Now I'm going to use a drummer to start with. Now I'm going to make guide tracks as I go, and then I can gradually strip off those guide tracks as I become sort of more happy with putting other instruments on. But you don't need to take these things away, of course. They are still there. They may yet add some good to your tune. So I need... So if you go to the tempo, you can tap it. 96. Easy. Now, if I press play on the phone, that's going to do me absolutely fine. Now, I want to be able to record a complete pass of this. So if I go to my plus symbol at the end, you can see it's got 8 bars automatic. Now I'm going to go a bit old school here and just select and load a number of bars, because I quite like the whole tape machine aspect of this. It simply records your performance until you press stop. Sometimes if it's 8 bars, it can suddenly cut off an idea and you think, oh, I wish I'd set it for longer. So this is where the Zoom IQ6 mic comes in. It's this little thing here. I'm going to put the whole mic, just going to do a little sound check to make sure that it's not too loud. It's got a little level control on the side, which is really useful. Okay. Where are we tonight? Okay, so I'm going to just record a version of this with just guitar and vocals that I can work with and then record other stuff to. So here we go. I always tend to leave a few bars at the beginning just to allow the drums to the tempo to settle down. I suppose it's a bit of old school, waiting for the tape to fully settle against the reel. So here we go. Two, three. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then we'll sure will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there. The shadow of a former self. Getting how to start golfing. One last chorus. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. Okay, so I've done a guide track, so it's basically how the song is laid out. Now, because I've recorded it to a tempo, if I want an extra verse sequence, I can just chop that and cut and paste and do all sorts of things. So at the moment, I'm reasonably happy with what's been done. At the end, where I've got the chorus, one last chorus. Where I want to repeat that really. So I'm just going to find the beginning of the chorus, which is there, split that. And that's where the chorus essentially ended. So I'm going to split that as well, cut that there, get rid of the ending piece there, and I can just copy and paste at that position. So there's my song structure. So I've got 51 bars. Now at this point I am actually going to decrease the size of this tune, just so it means I've got a little bit more, a little bit better scale overall, so I can see exactly what's happening. So what's the first task then? Bear in mind, I'm only using the mic. I will use some internal sounds on here, but I need to get a bass sound first. Am I going to go on board bass sounds? Well, let's see what happens. So if I just get, let's have a look, bass notes. I'm going to just play with the sounds. I quite like the P bass on this. It's just a little bit more sort of middly. I like my P bass sort of sounds. So I've got to basically play a bass line using the onboard thing here, and if it works I can use it. If not, I could plug my bass into an amplifier and then put the mic in front of it. Don't forget that sometimes if you use internal sounds, it can become very the same as everybody else's GarageBand. Of course, this same program exists on every iPhone and iPad on earth, so we've got to maintain some sort of individual edge somewhere. But I'm just going to find the beginning there and press record and put a little bass line idea down. 2, 3. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then we'll sure will have to wait a while. A year from now we'll be there, the shadow of a former self, getting how to start, go figure, asking what we're all gonna do, and we're asking where. Okay, so that's my bass idea for the verse and the chorus. At this point I will actually quantize this because it will help me when I put other parts down. So 16th note, because I've got I've got some quick notes there. So I've got a verse sequence and a chorus sequence. That means that I can play jigsaw puzzles with it to basically make that work. So I've got 4 bars here. Let's have a look. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Oh, there's a little mistake there. I've got to correct that while I'm here. It's always best to do that. It was that one. There we go. It was an F instead of an E. I just tapped the wrong area of the fretboard. Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then we'll sure will have to wait a while. So the chorus bit, which is that bit, was all right in terms of the timing, but the timing of the chords in the verse, when I played the bass, it was at odds with that guitar. The question is, which one do I go for? Well, I think that as I played the song on guitar and sang it, that would probably give me the best feel of what the song should be. So I'm going to need to just tweak the rhythm of the bass where the chords change in the verse section. A year from now. Oh. So that, the chord, actually changes halfway through the bar. A year from now, we'll be there. The shadow of a former self. And then a little bit there. Self. Getting how to start. Forgot that note at the beginning. And I think that changed there as well. Getting how to start, go figure. Asking what we're all gonna. Nope. That was in the wrong place. And asking what we're all gonna do, and we're asking where. There we go. Now the timing of the guitar did change when I did the verse, the solo verse. So we've got to be a little bit careful with that as well. But I'm going to find the middle point of that bass line, because that's basically the split point between the verse and the chorus. There it is. So actually I had a chorus and a verse. There we go. Copy those and put them there. And then 2 choruses at the end. So that's that one. Copy, paste, paste. So far so good. Let's just listen to the second chorus. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the... In fact, that was fine, because the chord is 1 chord per bar. In the solo, it's 2 chords per bar. The timing is different. Ooh. I want to avoid this sort of cutting and pasting too much, so actually it's quite a good thing that I've done a different thing in the verse to the first verse. It went ba da ba da da ba 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 ba, so I can make something of that in other parts. Let's just move that note. And then that happened after a 16th note. I can move that note. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to drag these notes unless you're really on that. Yeah, okay. Okay. One last chorus. And there we are. So I've got my bass line, got my guitar line, I've got some vocals. So already the song is beginning to take shape. So brief hiatus while I set up for the next bit. Now for the next stage, I've got my electric guitar, and if you look just down here, I've got my little guitar amp, which is just down on the floor here, and the microphone that I used just now is in front of the speaker. Now I've set the level of the mic so that it's not really high, and I can just do a bit of a check before I begin. So I'm going to add an audio track. Let's have a look. Audio recorder, more sounds clean. And just go to my... Oh, actually, no, I'll stay in that window because it will show me my recording level. That's absolutely fine. I've switched the monitor off because I want to hear the track over my guitar amp. It's quite loud in here, so, and I quite like that sort of guitar amp a little bit louder because it makes the speaker just break up a little bit and it just sounds a little bit more natural. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. In fact, I'll just find the beginning point. Yeah, it's 2 bars in. Now, when you press record from a particular point, it will actually record during the count-in as well, which is quite handy. So if you have a strum that begins before beat 1, don't worry, it's there. So here we go. I'm going to put some sort of funky sort of electric guitar over this. 2, 3. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then we'll sure will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there. Got the rhythm wrong for that verse. Now notice also I came down a little bit and put some chords there instead of the sort of the choppiness. So I'm going to undo that and redo that. But the principle here is that actually when you press stop and go back, you think, oh, actually, maybe I can, you know, I can sort of come up with a different chord version or something that will fit. So it's a constant process of sort of writing and creating and just changing directions. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's a lot right with it. So here we go again. 2, 3. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then we'll sure will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there. The shadow of a former self. Getting how to start, go figure. Asking what we're all gonna do, and we're asking, where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. Guitar solo. One last chorus. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. I took the decision to record the guitar solo in this take. I might have just carried on playing chords and then put the solo on afterwards, but I quite like the spontaneity of going, I'll do the solo. It's going to work. Because actually, what I can do afterwards is I can split the track and actually put the guitar solo on a separate track to treat it differently. For example, some reverb or anything really. Now at this point I'm just going to double check that guitar to make sure it's not distorted on the recording, so it's always important to do this. I should have done it first really. It's absolutely fine. Lucky. Okay, while I'm here then I'm going to duplicate this track and I'm going to put some sort of little sort of stabby bits and pieces, because actually when you've got the electric guitar out, when you've got your amp set up, you may as well just put a few things down. You could even put another solo down. One thing I could of course do is the solo is over the verse chords. I could actually chop the verse chords and copy them and put them underneath as another part, so it's like I've recorded it again. That might be all right. Well, let's have a look at some perhaps some little stabby parts. 2, 3. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then we'll sure will have to wait a while. A year from now we'll be there. The shadow of a former self. Getting how to start. there was that note that was really out of time. Now, well, actually, it's not such a bad thing I've done that because for the purposes of this demonstration, we can do something about this. If the take was otherwise okay, otherwise good, I can even see it. Tonight, nowhere, then the show will have to wait a while. I thought I could see it. Where are we tonight? There it is. It's that one there. It was a little bit late. So what I'm going to do is I've zoomed in. It says snap to grid off here. So I'm actually going to, luckily, because it's a part that's got lots and lots of silences, you can get away with moving individual notes by doing this. So it was a little bit early, so I'm just going to move it a little bit. Where are we tonight? No. Okay, problem seems to be solved. I'm just going to have the metronome on, the dreaded metronome, and just see if that works with the beat. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Okay, I kind of got away with that. Now, during the guitar solo, when I went like that, I wasn't having a go at my own solo. I was having a go at the fact that actually this guitar was kind of getting in the way of it. So that's okay, because I can cut it out. It's okay. Hopefully there will be a point at which I can do that. So, I've done some electric guitars. What next? Electric piano. Maybe. Let's see what happens if I add. Now, the on-screen keyboard can be used, and actually I am going to use it for the purposes of this demonstration, but it also means, there we go, electric piano. It also means that you can't do anything too complicated because you've only got an octave. So it's it's really useful for your sort of production if you're not sort of playing to overplaying on it. So let's see if this works. Tonight, nowhere should be arguing up a fight. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there. The shadow of a former self. To start, no figure, asking what we're all gonna do, and we're asking. Okay, so I'm just going to record that now. There were a few little things in there where I just caught a note that was completely off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn the volume down of all of the other parts just so that I can hear the electric piano, and I am going to quantize this as well because I want it to be. It's just in the background, providing some backup, some sort of harmonic backup to everything else. And it sort of glues everything together. It's a very useful instrument. It's the Fender Rhodes. I used to have one of those. Lovely thing, but weighed a ton and was just, yeah, well, unfortunately. Still, let's have a little listen back. I'm just going to open the edit window at the same time so that we can see what we've got. Let's have a look. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. There's the first mistake. So I meant to play an E, but it was an F. Easy. Job done. Don't tell anybody. Nowhere should be. Actually, the middle note was also wrong. Hey, it's a little bit out there for me. There we go. A year from now, we'll be there. Shadow of a former self. It kind of doesn't go with the chord, but I quite like the direction that it sort of fell from former self. That the note, the sort of up, and then it fell. Shadow of a former self. Start, no figure, asking Now that had a C in it, but I had a C major 7 chord, which has a B at the top. So I've just got to make sure that it conforms to the harmony as well. Asking what we're all gonna do, and we're asking where I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to do the same as I originally did with my bass part, which is just to split it exactly halfway down so that I've got a nice chorus line and a verse line. So if I just get these two, copy those, and I'm just going to put them over here, paste, and then I'm going to get my chorus line, which I didn't do with the bass. I accidentally pasted the verse like an idiot. And there we go, there's our complete keyboard pass. Now, of course, the cutting and pasting is a little bit cheaty, but if it's a supporting part like that, that's all right. Now, I've got the drums at the moment, which occasionally go, it's got that sort of sound, which is starting to annoy me a bit. Now, of course, the drums is just the electric drum kit. I quite like the sounds. I've got a real kit here, but am I going to record that instead of this? I don't know yet. However, we're going to set up for the next thing. Here then I've got my stereo mic here. Now it's behind this little gauze, which basically prevents a lot of sort of the B sounds and lots of bass end going into your mic. You don't want that. You don't want any sort of pops or anything on your vocals because it will really stick out. Now, I've got a stereo mic here, so I've got to test out which of these is actually pointing towards me. Now, if I just get another audio track here, I'm just going to scratch this. Right. I need channel 2. Now, if you have a stereo mic, as I have here, you can actually choose which one you want, or indeed both for stereo recording. So I need input 2. Now I'm going to record the chorus line and the vocal line, the verse rather, and then I'm going to put some backing vocals down. So I've got to make sure that I'll just double check also. Yes, what I've done is I've muted the guide track so that I can sing basically without the other voice going in my head, but I've still got it there as a reference should I need it. So here we go. I'm just going to record the whole thing, just the verse and the chorus. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there. The shadow of a former self. Okay, so the verse is fairly dreadful. I've just managed to get that chorus line in there. So actually, I'm going to just find the beginning of the verse, which is there. I'm going to cut that out and actually just redo the chorus, the verse line rather. So here we go. Just press record. A year from now, we'll be there. It's not that the note doesn't work. A year from now, a year from now, we'll be. A year from now, we'll be there. A year from now, we'll be there. Shadow of a former self. Forgetting how to start, go figure. Asking what we're all gonna do, and we're asking, where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. Okay, so I've actually recorded 2 choruses in the verse. Now this is going to be useful to us because it means that I could potentially cut and paste those 2 choruses and put them at the end. I could put them the other way round. A little bit cheaty, but it's the sort of thing that could work and could save you a bit of time. Of course, for the purposes of this demonstration, obviously. It's prudent not to go too far into this, because it's not going to go on general release or anything. No. And paste there. So my last two choruses are actually the first and the second one reversed. Now I'm going to put some backup vocals in that first chorus. I'm just going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to duplicate the track that I've got because I know the settings work, and just go back to the beginning and just try some chorus only. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. So at the same time, I decided I would harmonise the word no. Maybe I could try it again. Just got to remember the note. No, that's it. No. No. So I've got to remember that note when I get there. Will it happen? Dunno. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. Okay, now I could have harmonised the words nowhere, but actually I thought that just that chord coming in would work. Now I've just got to check the timing of this, because if notes are held a bit long or if entries are a bit earlier than the other, it could really unravel, especially if what I want to do here is I want to pan them slightly. So at the same time, I'm going to duplicate this track and actually get the verse line and put it on a separate track. Now I'm going to explain myself with that. Essentially, if I've got three vocals, they're going to be louder than one. So if I take this and give it its own separate treatment, taking care not to drag it out of alignment there timing wise, I'll just check that while I'm here. A year from now, we'll be there. So if I just go back, If I just go back to the chorus, sure will have to wait a while. Got three tracks adding together, it's quite loud, and then it suddenly drops to the verse. So at this stage, just so that I can get the production and I can sort of play other things over the top, I need to do a little bit of mixing as I go. So I'm going to use a compressor on the verse. Now what a compressor does, if you imagine you've got loud and soft levels, what a compressor does is to reduce the top ones, the loudest ones, and then you have, on some compressors, you have something called a makeup gain. On here, it's all built in. It basically just raises everything back up. So that means you can hear the quiet verses, quiet bits of the verse as well. And also, it just makes it a little bit, sit on the mix a bit better. So if I just play it without the compressor to start with, and I wish I could stop dragging those things there. Shadow of a former self, forgetting how to start. There we go. So I'm going to also, I was tweaking the compressor on the other track, which is why you couldn't hear it. I'm also going to put a little bit of reverb on. Now you have a reverb built into GarageBand, which is a general reverb that everything works through. You can have just bespoke ones as well, and a little bit of echo just to make it sit in the stereo field a bit better. Now we'll be there, the shadow of a former self. Okay, now at the same time I'm just going to pan the backing vocals just ever so slightly. There we go. Now when you pan things, rhythmic errors will really stick out. So if your chorus line has got any problems at all between those parts, you're going to get problems. Now, lots of people say, well, why don't you just duplicate this track 3 times and then just process it? Well, it's the same as having one track, but it's just louder. The reason for singing 3 different things, you get a sense of ensemble, a sense of just space. And also, because it's ever so slightly different, actually, if any tuning errors occur in one part, generally speaking, they'll be masked by the other two. So it does actually help you as well.
Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. A year from now.
Okay, so that's starting to sit okay, that. And I'm going to take those other two choruses and I'm going to cut and paste them. Of course, you know, if we had all week, I would, you know, put more on, but we don't. So I'm just going to cut and paste them to their points. You also have to make sure. Now, that's actually, that last chorus has come in a little bit early. No, it hasn't. So I've got to make sure that I cut and paste the other chorus lines to exactly the same place. There we go. So I've got two choruses at the end. As I say, I'm just going to fade those out. So there's some vocals. Now, again, I could replace those. You know, that's fine. The acoustic guitar, of course, has gone because it was on the same track as the vocals. Do I want the acoustic guitar? Maybe not. Maybe I just want it during the verses. But this is just a gradual thought process. So next up, I might do some percussion. See what happens with that. Okay, so now I'm going to stick just a bit of hi-hats on this. Now, as you can see, I've got my mic on this stand here, and it's actually, I'm going to set it to stereo. So I'm going to add another track, more sounds clean, and I'm going to set under channel, I'm going to set stereo. Now, of course, it is one symbol, but actually it's capturing the ambience of the room as well. Now, this room doesn't have a huge amount of ambience, but there's going to be stereo information flying about. So, just hi-hats. This is an experiment. Now, I've done this before, but it's just whether it will work on this tune or not. So I'm going to just go back to the beginning and just put some 16th notes and then just tone it down for the verse. And then I can cut and paste that as well.
Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there. The shadow of a former self. Forgetting how to start, go figure. Asking what we're all gonna do, and we're asking, where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while.
Okay, now, did that work? Oh, I don't know. Now, I'm going to go to the original drums up the top here, and I'm going to open up this, the drums itself, and take the hi-hat away. Now, this simply just leaves kick and snare, and that sort of sound that I didn't really want. I'm going to take that one away as well, that sort of sound. I'm going to take the fills away, so we're just left with kick and snare only, and then hopefully the hi-hats, that sort of variation will help. Don't know, let's have a look. So I'm going to set it to the beginning, and I'm also going to open up the hi-hat channel just to turn it down for a bit and then sort of raise it as we can hear it.
Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there. The shadow of a form for myself, forgetting how.
Now I'm liking this at the moment because the variety that it gives over that kick and snare really does sort of, well, it means that the kick and the snare aren't that obvious as being programmed sounds. So one other thing that you can do is add another drummer and just have the hi-hats, and you get this sort of thing where you can have various complexities, that sort of thing, and open hi-hats and things like that. So I'm about ready, I think, to start mixing and approaching the final stages of production. So I could maybe in the chorus as well, I could maybe add a shaker or something like that, just to see what happens. If I go to acoustic, let's just have the percussion up here, maybe the tambourine only perhaps, and take the kick and the snare away. There is a percussion section in this as well, but actually I'm just going to use this because it's a little bit simpler and a little bit sort of more easy to use, a little bit more controllable.
Be there, the shadow of a former self, forgetting how to start, go figure.
Oh, I could have that just in the chorus, for example, if I just take that away. Now, of course, when you have lots of sections, you can treat them all individually as well, which is really handy. So actually, what I'll do is I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to put this one over here. I'm going to keep this one, though, because it was a bit simpler than the chorus. If we listen out for that tambourine.
Nowhere, and the show will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there.
Okay, so I think I'm just going to take the tambourine down in the mix just a little bit. I'm actually going to just do the same thing with this. I'm just going to copy and paste there for the next chorus. Now, of course, you do run the risk, if you do a lot of cutting and pasting, that suddenly the song can kind of start to sound the same. And actually, that is potentially a problem but hopefully with the real instruments and the build-up and the guitar solo and that sort of thing, we should be in business. So, time to do a bit of mixing. Now for the mixing part, I've got my phone in front of me here and I've got all my files. You can see the drums at the top in yellow and the bass in green, and I've got my 2 guitars, my electric piano, 3 vocals, 4 vocals, and my hi-hats, which I haven't actually copied over yet. We'll have to split those as well. So let's just listen from the beginning. Now, at the moment, it's probably best to have your volume sliders open so that you can make quick adjustments on the fly just to get a result, just to start with.
Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No.
So I was just trying to sort out the bottom end, really, that kick drum, well, the drums and the bass, just to give the whole thing a bit of a lift. So at the moment also we've got drums on their own at the start, so perhaps just to make things easier, I'm just going to move the drums along, just open the scale up here and move the drums along so that they start with the rest of the tune. So if you've got them looped, you'll obviously need to unloop them so that you can move those drums forward. Don't worry about the fact it starts at bar 3, that's not a problem at all. Okay, why isn't it moving? Let's get rid of that. No. So I've moved the drums there, so that means that our tune now begins at bar 3.
Where are we tonight? Nowhere.
It cut off the very start because, as I said before, with guitars, you do have the sort of the strum, the sort of lead in. So if we open the tune right up from the beginning, you can see that the waveform, it was just there. But if I go to snap to grid off, what I can do is drag the left-hand handle very slightly back, and it just gives that a little bit of ambience at the start, and of course the vocals. So just do that, and this, and that as well. Okay, so if I go back slightly before the tune begins, you'll hear that now there's a bit of a lead in.
Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there. The shadow of a former self.
Yeah, I don't like that verse much at all at the moment, but I'm going to stick with it because just for the purposes of this demonstration, really, this is something that I'd obviously spend a bit more time over, but showing some of the principles along the way.
Forgetting how to start, go figure. Asking what we're all gonna do when we're asking, where are we tonight?
So I'm just going to split the hi-hats at the moment because I realised that actually we've only got 24 bars worth instead of 48. So I'm just going to split them again at that point so that we've got there we go. So I'm going to continue to, in fact, I will separate out the 8-beat in the verse, because actually that might be useful for the guitar solo, just to provide a little bit of backup during that. I think it's over here. Yeah, it's a little bit bare at the moment there. So if I take the 8-beat hi-hats and put them there, let's see what happens with that guitar solo now. So the guitar solo is quite low in level at the moment because I was strumming chords and then I went to the solo. So what I'm going to do is if you duplicate a track at a particular point, actually it puts the new track just below it, which is kind of handy. So it means that you can then, actually I've done that wrong because it's actually the track below. It's this one I want to duplicate. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to, doesn't really matter, but the hierarchy of your instruments is something that is going to really sort of matter when you're trying to find files. At the moment I should have renamed each track, that would have been handy, and also just split that. Guitar solo is now on a different track because I could, if I wanted, add a bit of distortion using the plugins and EQ pane. So let's have a look, see what happens with that. If I get my, let's try overdrive. Done the wrong track. Have to name your tracks. It's actually the one above it. So split there. I'm not going to bother duplicating a track underneath that. I'm just going to move it to the new position that I've created already. So it's just brought that guitar solo up a little bit. If we just listen to the bit before it.
So we'll have to wait a while.
Yeah, that's working for me at the moment. Now those three vocals, I'm actually going to compress them ever so slightly. They are at about the right level for me, but it'd be nice to have that chorus line a little bit more punchy. So I'm just going to apply some compression to these three, and I might actually just raise the top end a little bit as well. So let's see what happens with that.
Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere.
That's sounding a bit better now. So let's see what happens if I go into the verse from here.
Then the show will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there.
That's providing enough of a difference for me from the chorus to the verse. So things are happening okay at the moment. I'm mixing on speakers, by the way. Now, it's sometimes is a good idea just to put your headphones in to check for stereo imaging, because you get less of an idea out of your speakers. But mixing on speakers gives you a much better idea of a general space, and also the bass end and the top end, especially if you know your speakers well. And it's worth using a record that you know really well just to get used to your pair of speakers. Okay, so at the moment I'm sort of quite happy with this. Nothing's sort of jumping out as being overly wrong. I'm just going to copy these hi-hats over for the chorus. So I'll do the same thing. I'll use the second one first and then the first one afterwards. There we go. So the final chorus.
Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while.
Now the bass part, it's still the P bass sound from GarageBand, but I like it. I'm not going to bother overdubbing a bass. I'm just going to keep what I've got. Because if you like what you've got, it doesn't matter what it is. If it works, it works. Now, what I did was, with the bass, was to take the treble down ever so slightly and the bass up, just to make the sound a little bit less computery, perhaps. So if I just listen to the bass on its own. And that was without any effects. So if I compress it, bring the bass up and the treble down. I mean, yeah.
In a while. A year from now, we'll be there. The shadow of a former self.
Now at the moment I've used this electric drum kit for the whole thing. Maybe I wonder what happens if I change the sound. Will it undo everything that I've done? Well, I don't know. Will it? Oh.
Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Then the show will have to wait a while. A year from now, we'll be there.
Quite like the fact that the snare only comes in on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, ga. 1, 2, 3, ga. I think it's just a bit less predictable than the thing just coming on 2 and 4 all the time. Things are quite interesting at the moment, because actually I only had the clap at the beginning.
Where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No.
For me, it actually made the whole overall groove much better for me. Okay, so you can spend months on this. You can call it Final Master Mix, Final Master Mix 2, Final Master Mix 2, Final this time. And you can even put the date and the time. You think, oh yeah, this is the one, oh no, hang on, I've got to go in and do this. So I'm going to save this as a song. And the next stage is going to be mastering, where I'm actually going to transfer this to my iPad, which has Final Touch on it, which is a great mastering application by Positive Grid. That's the next step. Just before I start mastering, my song 14 is the one that I've literally just done. Maybe we could rename this at the time, because otherwise you'll be searching for things in your files. So, where are we? That'll do. Working title. Now I'm going to go to Share. Song. Uncompressed. We want to keep everything uncompressed completely, because we want to deal with full quality audio files only. So I'm going to share this now. There we go, my iPad. There we go. Exporting song. So it's doing a mix down at the moment. Now I have no idea what the volume levels are doing at the moment in overall terms. But actually that's not such an issue as long as it's not distorted. Because in Positive Grid's Final Touch program, you can actually lower the gain to start with before you do any other compressing. So you can see it's exporting the song at the moment. We're just going to wait for that before the next step. Here's my tune then on the Final Touch program, the mastering facility. Now, before we start, we don't need to use everything that's here. We don't need to automatically squash things. That's, I think, the mistake people make. They think, oh, let's just compress the hell out of it and then stick it out on general release. Well, we don't want to do that. We want to simply make our tune a little bit more lively and also where it sits in the marketplace. Now, lots of people don't think about that when they think about mastering. Actually, it's all about where that sort of tune sits. So there's a bit more of an artistic and a business side to things as well. Now, so at the moment I've got 6 things down the bottom here. I've got pre-EQ, reverb, dynamics, stereo imaging, post-EQ, maximizer. 6 different things that make up the sort of mastering chain. You can see that some of them are sited slightly above the others. If they're above, it means they're not in the circuit. If they're below, it means they are. So we've got the pre-EQ at the moment, which is actually in the circuit. Now, at the top, you get a graphical representation of what's coming in. Now, it's quite loud already. So my temptation is to actually, before I do any processing, to actually reduce the input gain a little bit. And that's this on the side here. I'm just going to take it down, it's 5 dB maybe. Just so that when we work with things, if we boost things, it doesn't bottom out and distort. Don't forget there is a maximum level you can get here. So let's have a little listen.
Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight?
Okay, so that's pretty much as it left GarageBand. We have 8-band EQ. Now this is much finer control than you get on GarageBand. So we can actually start playing with things like the air right at the top. If I was to do this, for example.
No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere.
But I don't want to do that because I'm happy with it as it is. Don't tweak stuff just because it's there. However, the bass end, I always, as a rule of thumb, tend to cut below about 40 hertz. Just don't want excessive bass rumble there because there's not really any point in it. The only time you'd hear that is on a massive system in a club somewhere. And actually, it wastes power if you're listening to it on a, an iOS device, for example. So,
Give up the fight. No. Where are we tonight?
So cutting that bass there hasn't actually made a huge amount of difference, but it will on bigger systems. The standby control here, you can see that the pre-EQ symbol at the bottom of the screen lifts up and down according to whether it's in or out of the circuit. Next up, reverb. Well, I'm not going to do that. Maybe if I'd recorded a string quartet, for example, in a studio, and I wanted to actually give them the space that they would naturally play in, being a chamber somewhere, then maybe I would. But I'm going to go straight to the dynamics pane. Now, dynamics, this is compression. This is where you actually get to the nitty-gritty of the mastering process. This is where you are listening out for deficiencies, perhaps in various frequencies that you want to try and lift. Now, at the moment, lots of people negate the mid-range. They sort of ignore it. It's all about the bass and the treble. So actually, I'm going to concentrate on the middle band only, just for now. And that's this one here. You can see I've got a treble band, bass, mid band, and bass. You can shift the boundaries between them if you like, and I'm actually going to do that. I'm actually going to up the boundary of the bass end so that I can leave the bass unencumbered. Where are we? 3000, that's about fine for the mid. So we have two main controls. We've got threshold and ratio. Threshold, we set that basically sets the level at which the compressor kicks in. The ratio is by how much it reduces the level. And then the gain control at the end just restores what was lost. So if we just play through the chorus is the loudest bit here. So we're really interested in that more than anything else at the moment. Of course, the whole tune has to be checked though. So if we just lower the threshold a bit, when I press play, there will be a little red sort of bubble that sags underneath the main the yellow spot here. That shows it's compressing. Yeah, okay. I hadn't set the ratio, which is why I didn't see the gain changing. Now, what we want to do is to keep a real good hold over levels, because it was distorting. It was completely went into oscillation there. So you actually have an input and an output control on each stage, which is really handy. So I'm going to take the output down a bit, just so that I can keep a level on this. What it's actually done is made that snare drum just sit a little bit better in the mix. And of course the backing vocals at the beginning are now brought back ever so slightly, because they are in that mid band of being squashed. Should we all give up the fight? Now, when you bypass a plugin, of course it will take the output away as well. So it's a little bit tricky to do an A/B test, but really if your ear's saying things are okay, then they are okay. So next up, I'm going to just leave that now, because next up we've got stereo imaging. Now this is really to correct if you want something to just be a little bit further into the middle, and indeed if you're mastering for vinyl, you've got to be really careful that you haven't got low end one side or sort of massive transients the other, because actually the record stylus, the cutting stylus, won't actually cope with that at all. So we have a mono filter, for example, for bass. When you're mastering for vinyl, that means it takes all the bass and just sticks it in the middle, which is where you want it on a record. So that's actually a very welcome control if you are doing that sort of thing. Now, I'm not going to do anything here because I'm happy with the stereo width. I did all of that in GarageBand. Post EQ. Now, this is just basically another EQ stage that you can apply before you then go to the last stage here, the maximizer. So I'm going to just have a little look at the mid-range and just take the output down slightly so that I don't distort it. The show will have to wait a while. A year from now we'll be there, the shadow of a former self, forgetting how to start, go figure, asking what we're all gonna do when we're asking, where are we tonight? Nowhere. Should we all give up the fight? No. Where are we tonight? I just kept a little lid again on the bass end there in case that of any sort of rumble. You've got to be really careful with that. Now, when I adjusted the controls here in the mid-range, that number 5, I actually played with this, the Q filter. Now, well, the Q factor, quality factor, that states how wide frequency band you're actually adjusting. If you have it far too narrow, you can hear this sort of notch filter sort of effect. Whereas I want to actually affect sort of frequencies that are around that as well, so that it's just a gentle mid boost.
We all give up the fight. No. Where are we tonight? Nowhere. And the show.
Now, next up is the maximizer. This is the final stage. You have an input, an output, and a threshold. So you have essentially an infinite ratio compressor here, which is what a limiter is. So I've got my main output. You can see in the middle there's something called a 10, which is attenuation. That basically shows how much the maximizer is actually reducing things, and you want to see some of that so that you can just bring the overall level up. So if I just press play, let's see what happens. Okay, it's not doing anything at the moment. Now, if I lower the threshold here, what will happen is that it'll actually get louder and you'll see the attenuation kick in. Let's do that. So I'm just going to turn this, just press play from here. Now, a good thing there is that the chorus had all the instruments in, but when it came down to the verse, the level didn't drop suddenly, and you're thinking, oh, I can't hear the verse. Whereas actually in GarageBand, the verse was quite a lot lower. But here we've brought everything up, but yet retained some of the dynamics because of the use of instruments. Now, when you're ready to export this, you can export it to anywhere. You can put it in audio share, mail, you can do anything you like. Audio share is a program that's really worth having because actually it allows you to deal with any audio file and send it anywhere without all these sort of restrictions or having to email things. So there we are. There is a complete process from start to finish using nothing but iOS devices and the fantastic little Zoom IQ6 mic. I'm still on the mic stand over there. Hope you enjoy.